I recently set myself a challenge of reaching 2,400 ELO by the end of 2026. And today is episode 2 of that journey where I reached my first major goal of crossing 2,200 ELO. Again, if you're not familiar with these videos, I play around 20 games behind the scenes and show you guys my most instructive game in that period. At the end of the video, we'll have a celebrity guest to help analyze the game, and we'll also reveal how much ELO I've gained since the last episode. I'm posting a rating climb video on this channel weekly, but if you guys would like to see more than weekly uploads, you might want to check out my Patreon where I have more episodes just like this, absolutely free. Before that analysis though, we have the game that took me over the edge to reach 2,200 ELO. So, without further ado, I hope you all enjoy what was a very eventful game. Hello everyone, I hope you are all doing well. I'm very excited to show you guys the first milestone in this series, which is 2,200 ELO. As you can see, we couldn't be closer to 2,200 ELO in this video, 21.99. So we are very, very close indeed. Anything. Actually, I don't think a draw will get us 2,000 ELO. 2,200 ELO. A win will though. We get a really cool opening straight out of the gate, which is, I love a good opening. I love a fun opening. I was hoping for a banker. I've been playing a lot of the banker lately. But we get this instead, which I'm really not complaining about because this is a lovely opening to get. We'll go over more of the opening in the analysis later, where we have our very, very special guest. But we get a very, very similar opening to something I play in other variations, which is the Austrian Queen's Gambit declined. You get this kind of variation, but you actually play it from the white side. There are a couple of other openings where you will play something similar as well. But my opponent has already messed up this opening a little bit. It is, I think, negative 0.6 at this point, so they have made some mistakes. Queen c2 is a pretty big mistake, and you can see by my reaction, I was like, Queen c2, that just does not look right at all. There are a couple of moves in this position, and I actually do miss the most obvious one, which is kind of annoying, of knight b4, which is a very, very obvious move now that I'm looking at it. But I end up going for an not equally, it's just another good option. It's probably like the second best option in the position, which is to play e4. Because I get really locked on this idea of, okay, I can play e4, then when his knight moves, I can play e3, and I'm looking at the rook in the corner, and my pawn is also threatening to remove white's castling rights. So I'm pretty gridlocked onto this idea, and I don't really see a way of white stopping it. It ends up getting a little bit more complicated, but as you can imagine, black should be a little bit better here, if not a lot a bit better. I'm kind of using my time here. I think at this point in the game, I'm very much aware of how good my position is. So I'm like, I think I even audibly say, I've got all the time in the world right now. I'm going to win this game very soon. And that is half true. I end up going for this idea, committing with e4, knowing that knight g5 is a little bit futile. What I did miss, actually, was that I could just play e3 straight away. For some reason in my head, I had this realization that, okay, after e4 and knight g5, which is what my opponent plays, if I play e3, they're just going to play f3, and my hopes and dreams are crushed. Because he kind of stops the idea of e takes f, and he stops the idea of queen takes h1. He does this little intermezzo move of knight c3, which doesn't really do anything. You just pin the knights, getting an extra piece developed, and now you have easier access to castling. So it doesn't really, it kind of just cancels out. Isn't useful for anyone. If anything, it's more useful for black. But after my opponent plays knight g5, I thought that e3 was not possible because he would just play f3. What I didn't realize is that e3 simultaneously cuts off the bishop's defense of the knights sitting on g5, which would have meant if I played e3 and they played f3, I would have just been able to take the knight, which is something we go over in the analysis, which I'm kind of annoyed that I didn't see. You can see I'm looking at it here, but then I'm like, oh, what about f3? Oh, f3 is a great move. Not really. It's not a good move. By this point, it should be completely winning, but I do not see that e3 is just a winning idea because I kind of second guess myself and I'm like, okay, f3 is annoying. So I end up kind of going for a different plan in this game. There are multiple decent plans to go for. I'm also seeing that, okay, h3, he can't take the e4 pawn because I'll just take with the queen, and he can't take with the knight because it's pinned, blah, 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 blah. So that's what I'm thinking of right now, h6. h6 is a fine move. There's also like knight d4 that you can go for, and there's no check on a4 because you have bishop d7, and after queen takes b d4, you have knight c7 check, which picks up the queen, which will also go through in the analysis, because I do understand that me rattling off notations, I actually found this out pretty recently. Not many chess players overall actually even know notations. Like, they can't follow along, so if you guys can read notations, you're in that 1% of people that can. I wasn't even aware of this, how many people couldn't understand notations when they were read out to them. Like, even looking at a chessboard, I'm not even talking about blindfold chess, which I can't even do, but a lot of people just don't understand notations, which is something that I didn't know. So I'll try my best to limit the amount of notation making I do. But we play h6, kicking the knight away. Did have a much easier win, but h6 is not a losing move by any means. We still have a very, very good position. By the way, let me know in the comments below who you guys want to see on this series to help me analyze the games. Hopefully, I would prefer higher rated players. You know, if your favorite 1000 ELO YouTuber might not be fit for this series. I'm not actually, is there a 1000 ELO YouTuber? I don't even know. I'm pretty sure like 2000 is like the lowest rated YouTuber that I know. Actually, 1800. Croissant is 1800. Is he the lowest rated? I don't know. You guys let me know. Who's the lowest rated creator that you guys know? I actually can't even think of someone. Ignore all of this nonsense that I'm calculating. It's all ridiculously stupid, which, I mean, happens, you know, we're not perfect. But this is just, I'm really calculating nonsense here. There's no better way to put it. And I continue to calculate nonsense for the next minute or so. I'm just kind of looking for a plan after h3, not realizing that e3 is just kind of working. Like, after knight h3, I can kind of just play e3, and I've got ideas with knight d4 still. I even have ideas with castling. You can even castle in this position, just play it ultra slow, and there's nothing white can do because their position is that bad. So you've got plenty of options here as black. One of the biggest problems that I've found, or one of the biggest weaknesses in my repertoire, is that I get these really good positions, and then I seem to just get overwhelmed by how good they are. And I kind of just start doubting every good move. And then I don't know how to explain it even. I just kind of lose. I just get into these great positions and then I overthink them and I try to play the most hyper accurate way. And then it just all goes south for me somehow. That's kind of something that I've tried to work on, and it's one of the things that we go over in the analysis as something that I need to improve on. But yeah, we'll get to that in the analysis. I think around now is when I start thinking more logically again, and all the nonsense calculations stop. We can see I've actually got a decent chunk of time as well to calculate. Oh no, knight g5, knight g4 is stupid. Let's not do that. Take that arrow away. Take it back. Bad move. Oh, yeah, sacrifice the knight, Jack. That's a genius move. What a genius plan. Sacrifice the knight for no reason? Let's do that. Yeah. God, okay. So maybe the calculations are not over. Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, there's nothing hanging in that line, Jack. You don't need to calculate that. It's fine. Oh my god. Okay, but I do have plenty of time, which is the good thing. Jack isn't gonna get into time trouble in this episode, right? You would think it's not possible. He's got 5.5 minutes. He's in like a +3 or -3 position. There's no way he gets into time trouble. It's not possible. Yes, knight d4. What an amazing move. Yes, let's look at this idea. Knight d4. Good, good, good. I like it. Knight d4. Bishop d7. Yes, this is good. And then if you take the bishop, come on, you can check on c2. Yep, there we go. We're getting there. Yes, Jack, come on. No, not quite. Okay. Does he understand it? Knight d4 on the board? Maybe? Finally. Okay, that's a decent move. Good job. I'm proud of you. Yeah, he can't take the bishop because we have knight c2, which is not winning the queen. How weird. Did you guys see that knight c2 in that position is not actually a fork on the king and queen? It's checkmate. It's even better than a queen. It is checkmate. I don't know what is the mate called? I forget. This has a name. When you check on c2 and the king is smothered in, it's got a specific name, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. It's also a mate in the Joe Bava London, I'm pretty sure, but instead of a queen, it's a rook. But my opponent does not want to play around with my queen a4 antics and instead plays queen d1. So I have a second or a third opportunity to finally play the best move in the position, e3. e3 cannot be responded to, actually can be responded to with f3 now, because the knight is no longer on g5. But if e3, f3, I have bishop f5, and how are you stopping c2 check? The answer is you don't. You don't stop it, you resign and cry. That's how you stop it. But of course, Jack needs to first eliminate all of the ridiculously stupid options in the position, like bishop takes h3 for no reason, and knight g4. Yeah, let's try and sacrifice the knight on f2 again. That makes lots of sense. But we'll pass all of this, and you can see my time is slowly dwindling away. 4 minutes left on the clock. I've got to play the endgame as well, so let's speed things up a little bit. There's not too much in the position to actually worry about if you just hurry up and find that e3 is a working move. I end up going for it, and what's interesting about e3 in this position is I didn't exactly know how it was winning. I was just so sure that it must be. Like e3, and I was like, okay, e3, what if f takes e? Well, then I know that I want to take the rook, so that's pretty easy. What about bishop takes? Okay, then queen takes rook still, and was still very good. But e3, f3, I didn't see bishop f5 in the game, but I just knew that something had to be there, which is something that I'll give a little spoiler for the analysis. It's something that RedPanda actually shed some light on in my game. It's that when I think that something is the move, I should look at that as much as possible first, instead of trying to eliminate all of these little dubious lines like knight g5 or knight g4, sorry. I should really try and make a move like e3 work, because if, like, you should trust your instincts more, basically, which is maybe something I don't do a lot. I kind of find a really good move in these positions, and I just assume that my opponent is going to have some wriggle room, if that's even a word or a phrase. But yeah, after f3 here, and you can see I've got the arrow on the board and I'm just looking at the board. Somehow I just don't see bishop f5. I'm kind of looking for some... I guess I'm kind of tunnel visioned in on the rook in the corner, but, you know, after they play bishop takes e3, my hand is forced. For good measure, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can take that rook, but for good measure, let's trade that knight off the board too. We're going to lose our knight on d4 anyway. I was looking for, like, okay, it's knight c2 a slight improvement. Yeah, maybe not. And I even get close to just taking here before deciding that I should be hyper accurate with the knight capture. But I'm not really sure if knight takes c2 is better at all. I leave my knight to die there, knowing that I can take their knight on the follow-up because their bishop is now pinned. You could also win the bishop, but I was a little bit hesitant to. We'll go over why in the analysis as well. So my opponent takes with the bishop. I'm threatening not checkmate, but more importantly, a queen trade potentially, if they are to take that knight first, and then the game would just be simplified beyond belief. So my opponent checks, and I have the option. Can I go king f8 and king g8? And then I thought king d2, maybe long castles. I do win that bishop, sure. But do I want to, like, be in a corner with my king and lose castling rights? I'm not sure. In the game, I missed that after bishop takes f1, I would have queen g2, which is, again, I'm using notations again. I don't know how many of you guys understand my notations, but I basically decide that bishop d7 is very similar to actually winning that bishop. And in some cases, or in some ways, with 2 minutes left on the clock, it's just a lot more comfortable to play bishop d7 and then swing the queen back with queen c6 and play the game that way. You can see me telling myself to hurry things along. I've only got 2 minutes left on the clock. Let's not flag this game like we did in the last episode. Well, we didn't flag, but we did draw because we got low on time. But you can see I've retreated the queen now, and this is a cleanup chop. We are up the exchange? No, are we? We're up a full rook, actually, not just the exchange. But we certainly need to hurry up because the biggest threat to our win here is the clock. Are we going to flag this game? I kind of don't want to part ways with my b7 pawn because bishop takes f6 forces queen takes f6, and then they can take on b7, which I didn't love the idea of, but I end up kind of accepting that maybe you need to give up a couple of pawns to consolidate and catch up in development, because there's no real way, because we don't have a dark square bishop, there's no real way to attack the white king quickly. You kind of just have to wait a little bit, which was annoying. And you can see me just absolutely having no regard for how bad my time situation is, as per flippin' usual, as Will Taylor Chess would say. But we end up getting a decently solid position. I think that this time scramble is also quite instructive as well, and we did go over it thoroughly in the analysis, because there were a few mistakes in there that I could have learnt from for sure. But knight e4, just developing another piece. I really should address this b7 problem, the backwards pawn, that white is going to try and use for counterplay, because it's going to be very, very difficult for me to actually break through, because yeah, they're just going to sit their bishop there for the entire game, and there's not going to be much I can do about it. So I bring my bishop up to c4, just developing another piece, really ready to play b6 at some stage. Then I need to bring my rooks into the game, and slowly my position is making more and more sense. So we play rook e8 to defend that knight again. The next move from my opponent, he has all the time in the world, by the way, so really should... I mean, the position is dead lost for my opponent, but you should not be exclusively trying to flag your opponent in these kind of games, because in time pressure, you'd be surprised how many more mistakes your opponents are going to make. And in this position, I make one mistake. Rook d7 is not good because they can play rook takes c4, queen takes c4, and bishop takes e4. They're winning 2 pieces for the rook, which is generally a very favorable trade for the side with that's just sacrificed the rook. But I thought I saw a line there with a double pin, but they've got a bishop that defends that queen, which we'll go over in the analysis because that's a lot of arrows and nobody's following all that. But yeah, they miss it anyway and allow me to just hop my knight back, which was really good. I play a5, again, just blundering. There is a free pawn on b6, which they didn't see, which I go ahead and defend. It's not really a blunder because I am still just completely winning. But yeah, my position looks very solid now. A lot easier. I block the attack on my queen. They blunder a pawn, allowing me to simplify the position a little bit. Didn't really want to trade queens there because I was worried about my b6 pawn folding. I'm also threatening rook takes d4 now because there is the pin on the pawn to the queen, so he has to address that next. And then my game plan from here is pretty simple. Pretty simple, has that ever been said before? Where I can just bring another rook to e8, doubling up. They can never really trade because it involves a queen trade. And now my idea is, okay, let's try a queen trade here, and we're going to try and infiltrate on the second rank. My opponent deals with that pretty well with queen d1, although this is a stupid move. f5 for no reason. I mean, rook e1 was just an option there. And I just give up some important squares to my opponent for not much reason. Yeah, they check, king h7, and then I just let them in. This was stupid, and at this point I'm like, ooh, wait a minute, this is like not a fun position to be playing. I give up a pawn accidentally. Everything's held, thankfully. It's just a testament to how good my position is. But I actually make a move in a second that probably lost me the game had my opponent found the correct follow-up, where I check here first. And then I thought that I was winning a piece because I had rook takes e5 and his queen is hanging, and if he trades queens, I trade off. But he actually had queen f7 check there, which made it very interesting. We'll look at that in the analysis. My opponent did blunder their queen, trying to flag me. Don't try and flag someone with 17 seconds on lead chess. That is not sufficient flagging time. Pre-moves on lead chess take 0 seconds. Like, you're not going to flag someone with this much time. You should be looking out for the moments where they blunder, and in that position I did blunder. Like, they could have punished me and it would have given them a good position to flag me in. But we get to the end of this game, my opponent resigns, and we'll jump into the analysis that features your favorite panda, RedPanda chess. Okay, amazing. So we have RedPanda chess on for the analysis. We'll also have a fun little panda popping around the bottom of the screen to make up for the lack of face cam.
Yo!
Yeah, we'll have him bouncing around the whole board.
I'm gonna talk so much and make your editor's job insanely difficult.
Okay, so I'll let you take the lead a little bit with the analysis because I put some notes in the study that the viewers cannot see. So we have d5, and this is a pretty familiar position for me because this position arises in the Queen's Gambit declined Austrian variation, which just kind of occurs d4, d5, c4, c5. And then if they bring their knight out, you bring your knight out. So I'm pretty comfortable in these kind of positions. G3 was not something I am comfortable with at all. Usually you'll get like takes, takes, and takes. And you'll get knight c3 here, and a6. So that's the line I'm comfortable with. But he played g3.
Yeah, that's well known theory.
Yeah, I thought was a mistake because I knew that c takes d. I knew that if he took in the center, I play c5, and this would be better. But what would you play if bishop g2 in this position? Which is what I calculated in the game to be decent. I thought it was playable, but I'm really not sure. Like, white just feels very good here, no?
Yeah, and it is it makes a lot of sense if I look at it. So it's very typical to get these kinds of gambits in. Well, over here, I mean, I can look at the engine and see it suggests like Queen A5 followed by an E5 break, which is like really interesting. Personally, I kind of like the sort of but if I was playing this myself, I would sort of identify a simple plan. I know that E6 would get me in like very familiar territory.
Yeah.
So if you could put E6 on the board real quick, because if they ever take on D5, very likely you just take back with your knight. So you don't get into that. Okay, taking back with the queen. I personally don't know about the alignments. Usually, they also can't get E4 in immediately, right?
Yeah, E4 there's opposite.
Yeah, exactly. So the first step to eliminate that pawn. Now you don't get that IQP structure. So this seems very simple, right? So if nothing else, if I was playing with the black pieces and I would be completely out of book, this would be a very simple way of playing it, where you're essentially just going into some sort of Catalan.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, that makes sense. But they played this move instead, which is a lot more straightforward to play against. But it kind of brings me into my biggest weakness in chess, or at least the one that I'm having right now, where I kind of get overwhelmed with how good my opening position is, and I end up just not considering all the possibilities because there's so many. So obviously in this position, you want to play e5, take control of the center. Usually in these kind of positions, there would be a knight on c3 and you would happily play d4. But when this is the case, you want to play knight c6, of course, and after takes, usually they'll trade queens, and you'll have like great opportunities to play knight b4 and try to check on c2. But in this position, my opponent played queen c2. Does anything kind of what's the? I mean, you've got the engine on, but if you had this position, what would be the first move that kind of just springs to mind immediately?
Well, the first move. So I'd look if I want to give that check on b4 or whether I want to play knight b4. If nothing else, I know quite often, you'll see this, that the queen tends to be very misplaced on c2. Same with the queen on c7, right? Like there are many lines in the Sicilian, like in the Taimanov, in the Khan, where there are tactics with knight b5. So this, it looks a bit similar. And yeah, I mean, did you play knight b4? Because to me, it looks somewhat obvious, actually.
No, I didn't, and that's my problem. I didn't even see knight b4. Didn't even look at it. I looked at bishop b4, but then I saw this idea, and there must be that some Alpin Sicilian line where you play e4, knight here, and this is like something in the Sicilian where they jump back. In this line, it's not good for white, but this was the idea that I saw.
These are good pawn sacrifices. They're excellent pawn sacrifices if there's no bishop that can take on e3, right? Because if you get if you can get the damage structure in, like in front of the king, you're usually like that's worth way more than a single pawn.
Yeah.
Because suddenly there's struggle developing, and you've won some time. You've opened the position up further, and you've put like 2 isolated pawns on the now open e-file. So that would be excellent. But
at some point in this game, I also kind of just said to myself, and I think I spoke it out loud. I was like, okay, I can just take as long as I want right now because this game is going to end soon. Like, I think my position is so good. So I was kind of just taking my time to think. But they played knight c3, which is, a pretty simple, obvious response. You don't want to move your queen and lose tempo, so you develop with tempo. Well, not with tempo, but you kind of bring back the tempo and play bishop b4. I guess it is with tempo because you've got an attack on the knight. So they play knight g5, trying to counterattack it. And I missed such an easy move here. Such a simple move. And I'm not really sure even how I'm supposed to, like, get better at this. Where, so I calculated, like, a couple of moves ago, I calculated, okay, if they play this, and I play e3, they've got this, and I can't get the rook anymore because there's a pawn in the way. And suddenly the knight, there is no attack on the knight. You just take the knight. So I just missed this, and this is the reason that I didn't actually go for this line, was because I just didn't even see. I knew that, okay, if they take, I'm gonna take here, and this is great for me. But I kind of wanted to look for more, and it was at this point where I also played h6 because I was like, okay, h6 you actually can't take because of the pin, so that's helpful as well. So I play h6. And then after knight h3, I'm like, wait, oh, I don't actually have e3 ever because of this f3 move. And then I was like,
Right.
okay, I
So
don't really
wait,
know
were
what I
you
have.
were looking at e3, but you thought playing h6 first was an improvement, or not?
I actually don't know. I think my thought process just got a little bit muddled where it was almost like I was thinking, okay, maybe he'll even take that pawn and make life easy for me. But I thought that my position was good regardless, just because of how active I was and how difficult it was for him to kind of develop anything. Like even worst case scenario, I think e3 and this is going to be a decent position. You know, maybe you get bishop f5 or
Yeah,
something
and in
like
fact, I
this.
was gonna say bishop f5 is actually really quite bad.
Yeah.
Even because like queen b3, and probably you just play like knight d4 even. Right, if you can
Yeah,
put it on the
that's the
board, bishop
exact
f5,
way
queen
that
b3, knight d4,
bishop
and
f5, queen
like
b3, knight d4.
yeah. So and I mean queen a4 is also kind of nonsense because that's not
Yeah.
it doesn't come with check in this variation because the knight still stands on c6. So I
Well,
think the best
there's
move probably is going back to d1 and then with the bishop already on
yeah,
f5.
probably where
That
you
is a
just came
pre-made
from. Yeah.
attack. Yeah, bishop f5, queen d1, and then knight d4 anyway. Then right? Yeah, you
You
just
can also
trade. You trade.
take.
Yeah, trade first. Trade first.
And
Trade
you
first.
also to take. What's the problem with this? Oh, I guess you just dropped the pawn, right? So you have to be a little bit careful of that. But yeah,
Yeah, so I liked.
queen
Yeah,
d1 would have been.
I like trading first because then after knight d4. Oh, long castles. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, and then oh, do
And
we?
then
Oh, we don't have
95. Yeah.
this.
No, no, you don't have.
Well,
Oh,
95. We just win the rook, right? Okay, that makes
that
sense.
seems
That's boring.
that's what I saw. The engine
Yeah, that's the
sees
boring way of
more.
playing
The
it.
engine sees better. But whatever. This is what I
But I
saw.
saw this clever little line with knight d4.
I love it. Yeah.
The idea is that obviously you can't take because there will be. We'll put it on the board. Whoops, not that one. We'll put it on the board just in case people don't see it. But you get this check, winning the queen. Actually, just getting mate. I always
That is
forget
very
that.
pretty.
Sometimes I look for a queen check, like a fork, and it just ends up being mate. But that didn't happen, of course. They go back to queen d1 finally.
Oh, but very
And
briefly about e3 because you mentioned like I didn't see that. I don't know how to get better at that. So when you're in these positions, right, and you think about like h6, you already had the idea, like you already had like I can attack the rook. That was something you already noticed, right?
yeah,
So very often what you want to do when you're in a position where you need to make like concrete decisions to find a winning line or not.
right.
It's both good, like two things. First of all, to compare, right? Because very often you'll find like two candidate moves that seem about equal. So having some like decision, something in your decision making to compare two lines is very useful in that case. But then also large part about chess psychology is knowing when to insist on your idea being the correct one, right? Because
Right.
sometimes you'll have complete tunnel vision and you'll collapse immediately, and other times you will just play something wrong and passive because you find a good idea, you see one thing that's wrong with it, so you burn your whole house down essentially.
Yeah.
So
That's I mean that's kind of what I did here as well because I thought after to be completely honest, I thought this and I didn't know the next move. Like of course it looks obvious when you look at it after the fact that bishop f5,
mhm.
but when your clock's at 244 and you haven't considered just knight c set c2 yet, I guess I'm kind of worried about okay, this pawn is also falling like I don't know. I feel like my whole reason for playing E3 was that okay, I don't really feel like I have many other great improving moves. Of course, I could play something like castles, but it's very slow. I want to kind of play on the front foot.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess E3 in a way was kind of just that. It was like okay, that was my move. I think it's got to be not bad at least. So I played it basically.
Yeah, and I
Um,
mean you have such a lead in
and
development, so fair enough.
yeah, and they did make it. Honestly, if they played this, they might have had a better chance at flagging me later on, but they kind of made it easy with bishop takes, and now the plan is super simple. So we can probably skip, yeah, we can kind of skip forward because the rest of this is pretty rudimentary with bishop takes h3, where we have the pin on the bishop. Queen a4 check, do you think it matters really if we choose to step over or if we choose to drop the bishop back? Do you think it's probably just kind of however
Well,
you want to convert, right?
I mean, personally, I would just play king f8 here, just because I think you're safe. If I'm just very quickly trying to calculate some lines. But I really like the immediate pressure you have, no? Like,
Yeah, I thought that king f8, bishop check, king here, and
then long
castles
castles is
maybe was
forced.
annoying.
Yeah, you
I
take
actually
on
calculated king d2 somehow
Oh.
and forgot that he could castle, but yeah, castles, and then I was like, okay, I guess I just didn't see queen g2. That you could just get out of this pin really easily. If I went down for this line, I probably would have gone like, okay, let's say this. I probably just would have gone this and just abandoned the bishop. So it kind of just, if this was my idea for this line, I'm gonna lose the piece anyway. So why not bring it back straight away, right? With
No, that
bishop
makes sense.
d7, at least you come with temper, and then queen b3, and I drop my queen all the way back. There was this kind of try where they could win a pawn, but I thought that this was pretty. Oh, this is just mate. Okay, I didn't see the mate. That was queen takes c3, but we can probably skip through a little bit because, you know, this is just kind of conversion and I'm low on time. They make it very easy. We'll skip through. There is only one more real moment in this game where I kind of do something stupid. I think that's f5. I guess I have 34 seconds, but just allowing the bishop to get into e5 just allows for some annoyances later on where I give up the f7 square and then I give up the pawn.
Yeah, this feels
then...
it also just f5 as a move aesthetically feels super anti-positional. So we're moving one of the pawns in front of our king. We're giving up an outpost square to our opponent. While at the same time, I mean, the f5 square, you're also weakening the dark square diagonal, right? So now g7's always weak. So yeah, I mean, generally, because a pawn move is an irreversible decision, right? Like, once a pawn is moved, you can't take it back. But especially pawn moves in front of the king should really be done under some level of scrutiny, I feel like.
What do you think? What do you think is a good method to train positional awareness like that? Fast, like to make it an instinct, because I feel like when I calculate it when I have time, I'll never make that mistake. It's just second nature.
So you're the type of player, and that's an excellent type of player to be, or that probably means that you're tactically quite strong, but you try and solve everything concretely, right? And I've also noticed this from your games. What I will say, the best way to solve positional chess, there are only a couple mistakes that everyone makes. Right? Like, you can learn an infinite amount of positional chess. It's never done. But the mistakes that everyone makes, and it's always what I call irreversible decisions, right? So a trade, right? Because once you trade a piece, that's a pawn move, right?
Yeah, so, I call it board permanence. So
yeah, exactly.
A pawn move, a piece trade, something like that.
So, and what I've noticed, what a lot of players will do, they will make a one of these decisions, right? Like f5, because it immediately does something, but the decision is irreversible, right?
Yeah.
So I think you sort of need to develop this instinct over what type of moves require scrutiny, right? And I always say, if a move is irreversible in nature, you will need a better reason than I attack bishop. you know, because f5, if I were to ask you now, what's the benefit? I'm sure you can't even tell me.
I think, I genuinely have no idea, to be honest. I couldn't tell you. I think what I was thinking was, okay, knight d6 doesn't work because, it drops a pawn. Actually, it does work because you check here. So I'm even wrong in that regard. But I guess funnily enough, I think I just saw, okay, knight d6 doesn't work. What's the closest piece to the knight? I think my eyes just darted to this pawn. And we can protect the rook, overprotect the rook. That looks good.
Yeah,
I think that's generally in time.
And that's actually, you know what? I love that, because that's exactly what we mean. Because we're low on time, so we try and identify something simple to do, right? But then you go to the one thing that is the least simple move to make, and that's a pawn move. Chess.
Yeah.
Because if you had just shuffled your knight to e7, you can go back on the next move if you hate it. Right?
Yeah, that's true. Do you think just playing blitz would be a good remedy for these kind of situations where I would just get better at making non-committal moves in time trouble? Or do you think there's a better
I
way?
personally always think it's the opposite. I think you become better at this by playing longer time controls, because then you're sort of, and especially if you analyze your game afterwards, if you keep finding out over and over again, oh, f5 was a horrible move, eventually you're gonna learn.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so we'll move on. So I made this terrible mistake, of course, allowing them to take here, but again, it's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of the end of the world, allowing Queen F7 check. Kind of just, I think it would have prolonged the game too long for me to be able to win. Like they would have just flagged me if they found this.
Yeah.
Of course, there are some more checks, but you eventually get out of them.
Yeah,
F8,
but I
and
know for a fact that you didn't see that in 20 seconds. So
but yeah, I made that mistake, and then they blundered their queen. So,
nice.
I
And
took
then we win.
blundered
Mop
their
it up,
queen,
baby.
and then we win. Yeah. So based on this game, and I know it's difficult to see how good someone is at chess based on one game, but what would you say is the number one piece of advice that you could give me based on the games that you have seen, and for my audience, which is around 1,500 ELO, what would you think is the best piece of advice they can get as well?
So for you specifically, I will say when you analyze your games afterwards, go through moves that are irreversible. So whether it be a trade, whether it be a pawn move, and then really analyze those positions, right? Like again, F5 was a horrible move. Preferably, you even want to be able to identify it without the engine. You probably were able to because you could almost collapsed with it during the game. But
Yeah.
look at those moments because very often they're key, and especially when we talk about positional concepts, they really help. They will really help improve your game over the long run. When it's to your audience that's rated about 1,500, you're doing well, sweetheart. Don't worry about it. You're doing excellent. Just keep on keeping on and go do your puzzle rush.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on for the analysis. It was a massive help.
It was my pleasure,
I'll
and I
leave a-
want to thank Checks for coming on my channel. Fantastic, awesome job. This is
one day,
I'm
one day,
taking over.
We'll plan it. We'll plan it. But yeah, I'll leave a link to RedPanda's YouTube in the description below if you guys want to go check that out. But I hope you all did enjoy today's episode, and I will see you all in the next one.